Eek, have I. Ward 7 Alderman William Bill Shea won his record 41st consecutive term. The 116-year-old alderman, the illegitimate offspring of former Secretary of the Navy Frank Knox and his Irish maid Bridget Shea, was first elected to the board during the Democratic sweep of 1933. 82 years later, Shea crushed his opponent, despite being limited to only campaigning at night. Queen City citizens with long memories will remember that Shea, who was a corporal in the Yankee Division during the Great War, was stationed in Transylvania after the cessation of hostilities on November 11, 1918. He was bitten in the private parts while visiting a brothel by a prostitute who turned out to be Dracula's daughter. A quick-thinking patron saved Corporal Shea's life by taking him immediately to a local moil. Now, for viewers not of the Jewish persuasion, a moil is a ritual circumciser. Snip, 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 snip. Upon returning to Manchester after being demobilized, Bill Shea was able to lead a surprisingly robust life, given that he was now technically a vampire. His good health reportedly was the result of blood transfusions obtained from frequent trips to the Red Cross blood bank. Alderman Shea today set yet another record when Mike Lopez, chair of Manchester's Veterans Council, announced that the centenarian, Joel, you should really help me with that one, the centenarian would once again be the Grand Marshal of the Veterans Day Parade for the 41st consecutive year. 41 consecutive terms as alderman, 41 consecutive years as Grand Marshal of the Veterans Day Parade. Can those records ever be bested? The political grapevine says that whoever wants to beat Bill Shea and become Ward 7 alderman would be better relying on a wooden stake rather than the ballot box.
Hi, I'm Senator Lou D'Alessandro, and I encourage everyone to listen to Matt Connerton, Unleashed, in the afternoon.
Hi, and welcome to the QCC. Let's see. There was an election. Ted Gatsas lost. Joyce Craig won. Hey, let's do some baseball.
I like that.
Kirsten, hit the baseball video. While I put on the hat. Hey, who cares about them elections, huh, Mr. Baseball?
Yeah, who cares?
You didn't even know who, somebody wrote you a letter asking to vote for their father.
Right.
And I told you that Will What's-His-Name won, who I was on Matt Connaughton Unleashed in the afternoon with. Will Stewart. There's a couple Stewarts running. Well, enough of that. Bobby Dorr, the oldest living baseball player. The last baseball player to start playing in the 1930s, or even play in the 30s,
Yeah.
has passed at the age of 99.
Fantastic ball player.
Okay, Mr. Baseball, who does that leave
From
as the oldest living player? And it's easy. He's also a Hall of Famer.
Oh, I'm sure.
1946 World Series. Do you remember it? Hey, that's the Mr. Baseball show. We're supposed to have the Mr. Baseball banner, the baseball show banner. Jesus, I'm starting to get stout. There we go. We will cut this into a couple of shows for you, Mr. Baseball, and we'll put that banner back.
Well,
Who is, now that Bobby Dorr, one of the famed four teammates from the 1946 Red Sox, along with Ted Williams, the Little Professor, and Johnny Pesky, who is the oldest living baseball player? We can put that out to people, but they can look it up online.
oh, absolutely. they could.
1946 World Series, Hall of Famer.
Well, that was the Cardinals. Those were the Cardinals and the Red Sox and the
Seven-game World Series.
7-game World Series. I know Slaughter's gone. He's in the Hall of Fame.
I think that his performance also as a manager got him into the Hall of Fame. Another second baseman. Another Keystone Sacker.
Red Shandings.
Yep. 94 years old.
He's 94 now.
Yep. Isn't that ironic?
The old redhead.
That they were both
Yeah.
Keystone Sackers in the 46 World Series.
Right. Played against each other. That's right.
Being as we found out that you're older than Methuselah, do you remember the 1946 World Series?
Yes.
Okay.
The final game, Slaughter was on first with 2 outs.
Enos Country Slaughter,
Yeah.
another Hall of Famer.
Right. And he doubled into left center field, DiMaggio, who had been hurt, was taken out. They put another center fielder in.
Talking about Dom DiMaggio.
Yes.
The little professor.
Right.
The brother of Joe DiMaggio and Vince.
Vince DiMaggio. At any rate, Slaughter took off with a crack of the bat and ignored the stop sign at third base, kept coming, and the throw into Pesky.
Johnny Pesky.
Johnny Pesky, he hesitated a little bit and threw home, and it was up the third base line a bit, and Slaughter scored with the winning run of the series.
Which bedeviled Johnny Pesky for the rest of his long life.
Yeah.
Hey, can we see the picture Jay? There's Johnny Pesky on the left and Bobby Dorr in front of the statue of the teammates with Ted Williams, who Bobby Dorr played with on the old San Diego Padres of the Pacific Coast League.
That's right.
I guess that's a little professor, Dom DiMaggio, who was pretty small for a DiMaggio, was he not?
Yeah.
He wasn't the size of his brothers.
No, he wasn't.
But he was a great center fielder.
A
Wasn't
very
he?
good center fielder.
And there's Bobby Dorr, who set a record for most chances. I think he went 53 games and handled almost 400 chances without a single error. Oh, there's a little professor. He's on the right. He's wearing the glasses. So that's got to be Johnny Pesky over on the left.
Pesky, probably.
Johnny Pesky, didn't he have 3 200-hit seasons?
Williams, Dorr, Pesky, and DiMaggio.
Right. Johnny Pesky had 3 200-hit seasons, but he spent 3 years in the military, I think, just like Ted.
Right.
Bobby Dorr spent a year.
Yeah.
I think, and I'm not sure. I know the little professor was in the military too,
Yes, he was.
but I don't know how long. But
I don't know.
well, that's why Country Slaughter got into the Hall of Fame, because he only had 23 or 2,400 hits. But they figured his 3 years in the military,
Yeah.
he would get. I've gotten 3,000, but also when he did go into the Hall of Fame, what they talked about? What you just.
Oh, really? His
Oh yeah.
dash for home.
Wow.
I have a
geez.
picture of him sliding across the plate autographed at home.
Really?
Yeah.
And you met him.
No, I didn't meet him. No, I bought it.
And did you listen to it on the radio, or did you read it in the newspaper?
Wow. You mean the World Series?
Yes.
The 46 I listened to on the radio. I was only 6 years old. I don't.
67, I was 7, but I was about to turn 8, and I remember that. I
I-
remember Mickey Mantle, some of those World Series, and I was just a tyke.
I remember the 49 World Series also.
Oh, the real World Series I really remember was with Koufax and Drysdale, because they were like phenomenal. Everybody was talking about them.
Yeah.
Must have been 66. So it'd
66.
be like the equivalent, 65
Well,
and
they
66.
they lost 4 straight in 66.
Okay, we're not getting back to the Dodgers. They're losers.
Oh, why'd you bring up Koufax and
I'm
Drysdale?
talking
then?
about how I remember.
Oh, how you remember them.
I remembered when I was 6, and you remember when you were 6. Is that the first World Series you remember? 1946.
Yes.
You don't remember the 45 World Series?
No, I know who was in it, but I don't know.
44.
40. No, the Cardinals and the Browns in 44.
Geez, that must-
45 with the Cubs and the Detroit Tigers.
which, if you watch, World War II movies, they're always asking you, who was in the World Series? And then they'll always say the Cubs, but it's actually the Browns, because it's always like a Battle of the Bulge movie, 1944. But who knows about the Browns, right? Or cares?
Who cares? Yeah,
Who remembered the Browns?
they were. That was their only World Series was 44.
So, like in the longest day, or something about the Battle of they're asking, it's the Cubs and the Detroit. And, of course, the Germans are never supposed to be able to answer that stuff.
Red Shaney's in that series. He had a great double play.
46?
Yeah, you know who that was? Marty Marion.
Really?
Yeah, Slats they called him.
We're talking about 44.
46. They were in the 46 together.
Why would he be hitting he's with Marty Marion as a double play combo.
Yeah,
Oh, Marty Marion was the shortstop in 46?
yeah.
Well, tell us about the Boston Red Sox of 1946. How many teams had 4 players like that, you know?
Oh, I know.
Williams, who you say is the greatest hitter ever, and people would say either him or Babe Ruth was the greatest hitter ever.
Uh,
So,
different eras, yeah.
statistically, it's like a toss-up if you look at it one way or look
Yeah.
at the other. Then you got Bobby Dorr, a great second baseman, Hall of Famer. Then you got Johnny Pesky, who was a hell of a hitter before and after the war.
Yeah, I don't think Billy Goodman was up yet, but he
He was
won
there
the
about
batting
50.
championship 50. Hitting 350 in 1950.
Well, they play. Well, he came. Bobby Pershing Dorr was born in Los Angeles in 1918. You're thinking he lived in Oregon all those years, and I think he was 17, what was he? Maybe 18 years old when they went off. He hadn't finished high school when he went into baseball. Because remember, the Pacific Coast League,
Yeah.
folks, at that time was almost a major league. It had great players.
Oh, absolutely.
And they paid well.
And they played more games in the
They,
major
yeah, they play 190 games. So you
Yeah.
have some hellacious statistics.
year-round weather.
Yeah. And so it was between a major and a high minor league. But his father signed off and let him go to the San Diego Padres,
Mm-hmm.
and with the proviso that he'd come back, finish high school in the wintertime, and invest his money in AT&T stock, which later on made him
Wow.
well off, because his father was a telephone lineman.
Ah,
And who did he meet in 1936? Another 18-year-old comes up. Or must have been 36.
Dimash came up in 36.
No.
Joe.
No.
You mean on the Red
I'm
Sox?
talking about, who does Bobby Dorr? He goes to San Diego,
Yeah.
the Padres, and he meets another 18-year-old
Oh, probably Teddy Ballgame.
who was a native of San Diego.
He was.
And Ted, he used to take Ted up to Los Angeles because they'd be playing. Now, see, my father told me the Hollywood Stars was a team.
Yeah.
And he was there.
Yeah. They played at Third and Fairfax.
But there was another team in Los Angeles, I think.
Yeah, the Los Angeles Angels,
Right.
the minor league team.
Yeah, Pacific Coast League.
Yeah, they
or were
played-
they both Pacific Coast
They
League?
played in Wrigley Field.
Oh, yeah, you've gotten to the there's the 1946. Hey, bring them back. Hey, let's see. Ted and Bobby. H. There we go. Oh, it's up there. Throw it on the back too, if you can. They met as 18-year-olds, and then they would play together, except for the war. Well, they got up. Ted got up in '39, right?
Right.
And I don't know when Bobby went. 1940.
I think 37.
He got up first.
Yes.
Oh, because they need a second baseman.
Yeah.
He did. He's at 19 years old.
Yeah. 37, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
When did Ted come up in '38 for a cup of coffee, or was it '39?
No, 39.
So he had that
He
full
did
year.
go to spring training in 38.
Oh, he's considered immature, I bet.
And they, some of the other players said, wait till you see Fox hit. And he said, well, wait till Fox sees me hit. And he went to Minneapolis, won the Triple Crown, and then came back to came to the Red Sox.
They must have thought he was too immature, or
brash.
and then they probably outfield.
He was confident.
But Bobby Dorr came up in '37, played 55 games, and then was a starter in '38 for 145 games, and led the league in sacrifice hits with 22.
Mm.
Jeez,
They used to bunt in those days.
yeah, they did. When I was a kid, they used to
They
bunt.
don't anymore.
Jeez, until my 50s, they used to bunt a lot.
Actually, in the World Series, there were a couple of bunts.
But Ted Williams came from a broken home, famously, and he
Yeah.
used to take him to Los Angeles. And the family Bobby Dorr's family kind of adopted Ted. Not adopted, but because he's 6'4"
Yeah.
vulgar teenager.
He is half Mexican.
Quarter, I think. I think his
No,
mother
he's
was.
half. His mother is Mexican.
I've read different things. She was only half Mexican.
And he was a right-handed batter in high school, and the fence in left was so close that he decided to challenge the right field, hit left-handed, and he became exclusively a left-handed hitter, and I don't know why he didn't.
But we're talking about
switch
Bobby
it.
Dorr.
Well, we're talking about everybody.
Oh, his mother was from El Paso.
No, my wife was from town right next to it, Fabens.
Which wife?
First one. She's Mexican.
Huh.
And I've got 4 kids that are half Mexican. So, good-looking kids, too.
Well, she was she used to proselytize for the Salvation Army, which embarrassed
Right.
them.
Yeah.
And it drove I guess the father. Just
He was
took
he was a
off.
loser. Flat out drunkard, womanizer, loser, didn't work.
So meeting Bobby Dorr helped him,
Sure.
kind of stabilized him.
Yeah.
And and then they were together then from 39, except for the war, to 1951, when Bobby retired.
Right.
Because Bobby was well off, and even in 49, in that book by David Halberstam about that great season,
Yeah.
when the Red Sox got beaten yet again by the Yankees,
Yeah. The last
That,
2 games.
he was worried that he wasn't going to be able to hit as well. And so he retired early. But he was a boy. He was told that a baseball player could make $10,000 a year. This was during the beginning of the Depression. He said nobody could make that amount of money.
Yeah.
So that's what his dream was, and his father supported him. And geez, to come up to the major leagues at 19.
I know.
That team would. Who was on the 37 Red Sox? Jimmy Fox was still in his prime.
Yeah, he definitely was. I don't even know if
How many Triple Crowns did Jimmy Fox win?
Triple Crowns?
I know he won one.
I don't believe he did.
Do you want to bet?
Oh, here we go again. Do you want to bet?
Do you want to bet? How many Triple Crowns did Jimmy Fox win?
You say 1, I say none. But
How many Ted Williams won?
2.
Well, he won 2 times as many as Jimmy Fox.
Okay.
Mr.
So in other
Baseball-
words,
Mr. Baseball, you are slipping.
slipping.
He won the Triple Crown in 1933, 356, 48, 163.
That's right. I do remember that
Jeez,
now.
In 1937, he had an off year, Jimmy Fox, 285,
How many round trippers?
50. Wait a minute. No, 37, 285, 36, 127. The next year, 349, he won the batting title. He won the RBI title with 175, but his 50 dingers did not win. I bet Hank Greenberg.
Well,
must have hit
Greenberg must have
58.
been Greenberg.
Then Jimmy hit 35 the next year and won the Triple Crown.
When did he hit
No, I
58?
mean won the.
What
home
year did he
run
hit
title.
58?
When he was 24 years old, 1932.
32. Wow.
Yes, so you come up to that team, and then you form the nucleus of a great team that after the war was expected to do great things, wasn't it?
Yes. Yeah.
It won the first American League pennant in 105 games they won in 1946. Then what happened, Mr. Baseball? Do you want to tell the fans what happened to the great championship hopes of the Boston Red Sox?
They had bad luck. I mean, they went in 49. They went into Yankee Stadium.
I am handing you a ball. I'm throwing you a fat pitch. What happened to them, Mr. Baseball?
Well, let me finish.
The New York Yankees happened to them, right?
They went into. I'm just telling you the bad luck they had. They went into Yankee Stadium with a 1-game lead with 2 games to go in the season. They lost both.
Mr. Baseball.
50, and I think in 1950 or 49, the Red Sox had a 300 team batting average.
Mr. Baseball, what happened between 1947 and 1964?
47 and 64
Yes.
for the Red Sox?
In baseball, what happened between 1947 and 1964?
A lot of things happened. What are you steering
The New York
for?
Yankees won the American League pennant every time except what? Three times?
Yeah, they didn't win in 48. They didn't win in 54.
They didn't win in 59.
59.
Oh, my God. That's what happened not only to the Red Sox, but every team in the American League except Cleveland
Well, the Yankees
and Chicago.
the Yankees had that great manager, Casey Stengel. So that's why they won.
Who did they have in 47? Bucky Harris?
Yeah.
Who was Bucky? Was he from...
He was a boy manager of the Washington Senators in 1924.
Then
Shortstop.
Did he go to Brooklyn?
Oh, I don't know where he made it.
When did he, why did the New York Yankees can him after 48?
Well, you didn't win at 48. So.
That's all it took. Huh?
Yeah. Look at
And
John.
Casey did. Casey took the Oakland Oaks.
Yeah. And look at John Farrell. What's he done the last 2 years? Just win the division, and he's gone.
Twice in a row.
Dusty Baker got fired.
Dusty Baker could, I like Dusty, but he could never bring a team in.
Well, it's not, you have to have the material. A.J. Hinch, now everybody's saying what great moves he made in the final game this year, the World Series. And, he was smart. He used starting pitchers as relievers. He got some great relief work out of those guys. In multiple innings, 3-4 innings. So you need that. So he did manage well. My brother's still ticked off that Dave Roberts used Darvish in the final game. He said,
that's for the second part of the show, Mr. Baseball.
"Oh, second part."
Yes, we're cutting this in two. You said you didn't want to talk about Bobby Dorr for an entire hour.
Not for an hour. I don't know that much about him.
You said you knew lots about Bobby Dorr outside the door.
I mean, I know who he is, who he was, but it's like Pesky. I don't know where every major league ball player came from, what year they started their careers.
Can we get the camera on Mr. Baseball?
What year they ended their careers.
And you call yourself Mr. Baseball?
No, people call me that.
Thank you for the clarification.
Yeah, I don't call myself Mr. Baseball.
Can you open up your jacket and show the folks your shirt? I thought that said Mr. Baseball on it.
No,
that's the coat you have.
Yeah.
Somebody purloined your orange jacket, didn't they?
Yeah. Yeah.
But you got it back.
I got it back. So, at any rate...
okay. Take it away. What happened to the Red Sox? 1946, won 105 games. They got some of the most exciting players. Then what happens after 1947? Ted Williams won his second Triple Crown.
Yeah.
What happens to the New York? The let's forget the New. Well, we're going to get there. Tell everybody why the Red Sox had such bad luck. Tell them about their bad luck.
Well, it was
the hex of the babe.
Oh,
the curse of the Bambino.
No, I don't believe in that junk.
I do.
Why did the curse end the other day, or a few years ago, 1904?
I don't think it was 1904.
24.
1904 was the year we won the pennant.
No,
but
no
John
World Series.
McGraw refused
to play
the Boston Americans
because they were an inferior ball club in an inferior league that just beat the National League the year before in the first World Series.
Because when John McGraw was a member of the Baltimore Orioles in the 1890s, there was a controversial game with the Boston Nationals, which resulted in the Huntington grounds burning down, plus a quarter of Boston, and he feared for his life that day. I mean, he's Irish, but there's most Irishmen they were out to lynch him that day. The old Baltimore Orioles were the nastiest team in history.
He actually managed the Yankee franchise for a while.
The Highlanders?
Yeah, they were the Highlanders then.
Reportedly he fixed some games.
There's speculation on several people. Cobb.
He's
Tris Speaker was accused of it.
Yeah. Highlanders were created by, they were brought from Baltimore, bought
Right.
and brought by a cabal of gamblers. But,
Right.
that wasn't uncommon then.
They played up on the
That's-
hill. That's
yeah,
hence the name the Highlanders.
that's right.
Yeah.
Okay, tell our fans, your fans, my fans, whoever wants to know, what happened to the 1946 Red Sox? Just look into your camera and tell the folks.
There was a pitcher by the name of Harry the Cat Burkeen, and he won 3 games. Pretty much had the Red Sox number. That
Is
happens.
that 46 World Series?
Yeah.
And then what happens afterwards?
So they only needed one more victory. It was a 7-game series. Went down to the wire. It was a great series, much like the Red Sox and Cardinals of what year was that? They played Cincinnati in '74.
Well, what do you think? Do you think losing that World Series hurt them? Or is it just that it has no effect on people like that?
No, it doesn't
caliber.
have any effect.
Like the '88 Oakland Athletics lose, and they come back and win the next year, and then they lose the next
They
time
get swept the next year,
Right.
in '90.
because they're professionals.
Right.
But why did that team? David
Red Sox
Halberstam wrote a book about that.
The Red Sox didn't have the pitching. They had Boo Ferris and I don't know if Mel Parnell was on that team. Ellis Kinder.
You were going to tell us about their bad luck.
Well, just bad luck in general. It's not because Babe Ruth was sold to the Yankees. That's nonsense. Why would the curse of the goat end?
You were
last
going
year?
to. So, what was the bad luck the Red Sox had?
I'm just saying, general. Nothing happened right for them in the right spot.
Is that luck or just a team that isn't up to snuff?
You can look at it either way. The pitching on the other team was better, and they got the big outs. Or you can say that I hate to hear these guys go into a hitting funk, because you're facing the best pitching in that league. You're going to have guys go 0 for 13. I remember Gil Hodges in 1952 or 53 went 0 for 22.
Mr. Baseball.
Oh,
They faced a player named Joe DiMaggio.
Who did?
The Red Sox.
What year are you talking about?
Talking about the Red Sox. Joe DiMaggio won the MVP in '47, didn't he?
Yeah, he shouldn't have, but he
What do you
did.
mean he shouldn't have? He won the MVP. The
How do you-
baseball writers said he was the best player in baseball.
Well, the writers, they could
Were you there?
mess up a kindergarten
So
party.
everything is just statistics, right? That Ted Williams batting in a ballpark that was actually tailored to help him hit home runs, and it favors a left-handed hitter. And Joe DiMaggio, a right-handed hitter, batting in probably the worst ballpark for a right-handed power
And
hitter.
how many
Right.
games did he miss in 49?
Yet,
And Williams won the
Yeah.
Triple Crown. How do you win a Triple Crown
Because he's
and
a-
not be the MVP? You lead the league in everything.
so what?
What do you mean, so what?
So what? They voted Joe DiMaggio. Joe DiMaggio was a great glove man. Ted could care less about that.
He was adequate
He was
in left
great
field.
on the bases. He was considered the greatest ball player of his time.
Dimash was a better fielder, a better
How can
runner.
how can you denigrate Joe DiMaggio, who I was a kid? Everybody, there was no contest between him and Ted Williams. Nobody would have considered Ted Williams the greater player. Joe DiMaggio was the great player of his time, and he has 9 rings to prove it, doesn't he?
Yeah.
Doesn't he?
Yeah, well,
Did he
he
hit 140 in the World Series?
he didn't do well in the 51 series. But
How many World Series was he in?
but look at
And
his,
what happened in 1949? Tell us what Joe DiMaggio meant to the 1949 Yankees. Would the 1949 Yankees have won everything without Joe DiMaggio?
I'm not sure they would have. He hit 4 home runs in that doubleheader. I know you're alluding to that.
Oh, wow. He only hit 4 home runs that they had to win, right?
In Fenway-
Who was ahead?
in
Who was
Fenway
ahead?
Park.
Which team was ahead? This was when winner takes all, right?
Oh, absolutely.
And who was ahead when they went into this series?
Well, in the
Are we talking about, which series are we talking about? The last weekend?
49.
Or the one where he came off the disabled list?
No, after he came off the disabled list, he had a great doubleheader, hit 4 home runs.
That seemed to take the mickey out of the Red Sox. But what happened in the last weekend?
The last weekend, the
Of
Reds...
the 49, tell your fans what happened in 1949. The last year that the Red Sox could have won.
The Red Sox went into Yankee Stadium with a 1-game lead with 2 games to play. Yankees won both games, and I'll never forget Jerry Coleman hitting that dying quail with the bases loaded that fell just inside the right field line, and Ted Williams admitted he kept saying, "Go foul, go foul, go foul."
You will not talk about Joe DiMaggio. Joe DiMaggio came back. It was fabled. Friggin' Halberstam wrote a book about it. David Halberstam, a Pulitzer Prize winner. It was like Carl Yastrzemski in '67 when he comes off his deathbed and just clobbers the Red Sox. He was considered by his contemporaries the greatest player of his time. The only player that probably, as a hitter, I remember Stan Musial. For some reason, Stan Musial, the greatest hitter in the National League of his time, just forgotten, isn't he?
Yeah,
Why? He was as great as Ted Williams.
yeah, and Honus Wagner is another one you don't hear
Well, no,
much
we're
about.
talking about contemporaries of Ted Williams. Nobody would consider Ted Williams the great player of his time. No one. No one. No one did that. It's only in the statistics mad era, you know? It's not like Babe Ruth. Babe Ruth was considered the greatest player of his time.
And he
of
was.
all time.
And he was.
Of all time.
Well,
At
if you
his
go with
time.
stats, now here you go.
No, but Babe Ruth was considered not only the greatest player of his time, you know, he eclipsed Ty Cobb,
Oh,
but of all time. And that lasts. But we're talking, why won't you just give Joe DiMaggio a fair shake as a Yankees fan?
I do. He's a great he was a great ball player.
You have these perversities. You don't like Casey Stengel, and you don't respect Joe DiMaggio.
I do respect him. He was a great player.
If only we could bring this up. Remembering Joe DiMaggio's unbelievable comeback in the summer of 1949.
Now, here you're talking to a Yankee fan
yes, but you have
saying a Red Sox player is better than a Yankee player.
But he's not.
So I'm being honest.
Ted Williams is not better than Joe DiMaggio.
Better hitter.
How? Joe DiMaggio, when they're matched up in their prime, out-hits him on the road. Ted Williams played. If I play in a park, like, okay, Roger Maris, he comes to a park with 267 feet down. If you pull the ball,
if you pulled it right
and
down
he
the
hits
line.
61 home runs in an expansion year.
Yeah.
Yeah, because he has a swing and an ability to pull the ball in a park tailor-made for that. You put him in another park, he's not going to hit that.
Absolutely
He'll
right.
hit 30 dingers.
Absolutely right.
So you've got Ted Williams in a park where they put the bullpens Williamstown. They expand it so he can hit more dingers. He's in a left-handed hitter's paradise. And you're comparing him with Joe DiMaggio, who's 81 games in a hellhole for a right-handed power hitter, isn't he?
Oh,
What was the power alley in Yankee Stadium?
No, it was
deep
left center field.
What was it when Joe DiMaggio was playing?
Oh, so 465, something like that. You mean the distance?
Yeah.
Oh, it was yeah.
It was hellacious.
Yeah, it was Death Valley, they called it. That's what they called center field in Yankee Stadium.
I know, Mr. Baseball. I was a Red Sox fan, and there were many right-handed power hitters on the Red Sox. Even when they brought the damn thing in the '70s, you know, it was still further out than it is now.
Oh, it is.
They
Yeah.
brought it into 399, I think. Jesus Christ, Carlton Fisk, Jim Rice, they just hit Boomer, hit these bombs right out. And there's Mickey Rivers. Boom, catches it.
Here's something I'll throw at you. When DiMaggio had his 56-game hitting streak, he had 408 in that streak. In that same amount of games, what did Ted hit?
And who won the MVP?
Well,
Who won the MVP?
they robbed Williams of that one.
Why would you call him Robin when the people?
How do you hit 406? And
who hit 400 before him? It was only 11 years earlier. Nobody at the time considered 400 a Herculean thing.
Bill Terry or Ducky.
Right.
Yeah, Bill Terry.
Nobody considered hitting 400 in 1940 and spectacular. It was really something.
Oh, it was. It was fantastic.
I think him hitting 388 when he's an old fart
Yeah.
in 1957, and he lost to another Yank. Ted Williams didn't have much luck with.
Actually, it was
He lost to
57. Yeah.
That's when he was 38 years old.
And then he
He lost the MVP too.
Oh, I'm sure he did.
Well, he lost it too.
Well,
He
listen,
lost it to another Triple Crown winner, but I don't think that year.
the sports writers hated Williams.
Mickey Mantle.
They hated him. It cost him a
What
lot.
does that have to? But
Because
even
they
with
wouldn't
those
vote
two-
for him.
Even with those two,
It was like Albert Bell was absolutely, totally robbed a few years back. They gave it to that
Albert Bell,
one-year
whose
wonder with the Red
contract,
Sox.
upset the whole apple cart. Jesus. Well, we'll start part two now. Jesus.
Because they
Let's-
hated Albert Bell.
Who wouldn't? Albert Bell. Jeez, you have a strike in 93 and 95 to help the small market teams, according to Bud Selig, whose name I hate to even bring up. And then one of the guys, was it Reinsdorf, who's one of the people behind the strike, gives Albert Bell $11 million a year, where the biggest contract's like 6 or something. Those guys are crazy. And then he goes on the DL for the most of his career. Hey, Mr. Baseball, tell us about the rookie. The awards are coming. Why don't you
Well,
say who was the AL Rookie of the Year?
surprise, surprise.
I'm already.
Aaron Judge.
Oh,
My
my.
goodness. I wonder how he got that. He only hit 52 dingers, 113 ribbies.
Right, he
hit
beat-
over 280.
Yeah, he beat the Mark McGuire, who has a asterisk after his name, doesn't he?
Yeah. Yeah. Mark took Peds. Now, Judge
And was rather open about it.
Judge is liked by the sports writers. You can hear them
He's a nice- I
on the
like
major.
him.
I do too.
I love those. I love that young team.
So, what, 30 ballots cast, 30 first place votes for him.
Oh, he's unanimous.
Totally unanimous.
Fisk was unanimous. So was
Jeter, I heard, was.
Land, Jeter, and I think Thurman Munson might have been.
You know who should have been also is Suzuki. Ichiro.
Yeah, but because
Well,
he was already established.
He was Rookie of the Year. I don't know if it was unanimous.
I don't think it was unanimous.
Yeah.
But there's always some drunk that.
You're right, because they wouldn't. Some sports writers
consider him Rookie.
wouldn't vote for Hideki Matsui.
Oh, maybe I'm mixing them up. Yeah, because they came and they were already established players in
Yeah.
Japan. Who's NL?
The Corey on the shortstop on the Dodgers. I can't think of his name. Senior moment, but he deserved it. I know that. I saw the Josh Bell and Corey. I want to say Snyder, but it's not
It's
Snyder.
a good thing that we can edit this for your show. Jeez. Corey Seager.
Seager, thank you.
Did your daughter get a bonus?
No, but she made some crazy money.
When are we going to get the Penguin on the show? Ron said.
We're going to fly him in, huh?
Jesus, all he has to do is come on Skype.
Skype?
Yes, Mr. Baseball, it's 19... I was going to say it's 1977.
No, you're using-
That's 40 years ago.
You're using my...
How can 1977 be 40 years ago? My ex went to that World Series. What was she? 14. She's not 14 anymore. Well, geez, we're going to keep her away. If she was 14, miraculous, we have to keep her out of Alabama.
You know
Away
who was
from
the
Senate
manager?
candidates.
You know who was the manager of the Dodgers in '47?
In 47,
Yeah.
Bucky Harris.
No, that's Yankees.
Oh, Jesus Christ.
Dodgers.
Leo DeRocher, the lip.
He was suspended for the season. And Bert Schotten.
That's right. And
Bert
where'd Bert Schotten come from? Cardinals?
Oh, he hung around. He was grandfather to wear a suit. He didn't
We're
have-
supposed to be talking about
Oh, like you don't jump around.
I like to jump around.
I'm going to get you a jump rope. You jump
I
from
know
here
you're
to
getting,
here.
You're getting close to bringing up the 1952 World Series again.
Oh, 52.
We have a bet riding on.
I'll talk about the 52 series because the Yankees won it.
Yes, because because Joe DiMaggio wasn't on the team.
And Casey Stengel was the manager.
It's a balance. Oh, jeez.
But they did have the Mick his sophomore year, and he had a good year. They're supposed to, in those
Birch.
days, they said the sophomore jinx.
Did Birch? There used to be one. I don't know why, but there was. Fred Lynn in '76 had a good year, hit about 311, but not with there was a little drop off because the pitchers would get used to the kid,
Yeah, I like.
and then really go at him.
Yeah.
Nowadays, geez. Oh. But Birch shot. Did he wear a straw boater like? Connie
Yes,
Mack?
he did. Yeah. Yeah.
I remember when Captain Outrageous, Ted Turner, suited up and tried to manage the Braves.
Yeah.
He got into the dugout, and that was about it.
Oh, he got one game in.
Did he?
Yeah, and then
I thought he got canned right.
and then
there.
the president called him, said owners cannot manage.
Is that Warren Giles? Who was in '75 or '6?
Was it Giles or Frick?
Frick was long gone. He was the
Oh, it's
commissioner
long
to
gone.
'65 when they got that Air Force general in. What's his name? Eckert.
Yeah. Oh, there were so many Uberoth.
Geez, call in with some, he's an expert on the 52 World Series. Let's see if we can stump him on the 53 World Series.
No, you can't because the Yankees won that one also.
Yes, and you had to put up with Casey Stengel.
And I remember Billy Martin driving in Hank Bauer with the winning run.
Jeez, I think we had that
I like it.
on one of our shows. We've exhausted the 49 to 53 World Series
And
a year or two ago.
And then Charlie Dressen.
But see, that's when you're really coming of age, so you really remember those babies. Well, how many people can say they can remember their team won 5 straight World Series?
Yeah.
You.
Yeah. Unless you're a Yankee fan my age.
You.
You and maybe 5 others.
Boy, my father was bitter about the Braves.
Oh, what?
He'd been a Braves fan as a kid because he didn't like the Red Sox.
So
and
you're
then they
talking
went to
about
Milwaukee, and then he moves to Atlanta in '67, and there his team is. They'd moved there in '66. Then you got Bobby Cox. That team should have won a lot more than it did. Ooh, man.
they won so many divisions in a row, they just couldn't win a World Series. They won one.
They won 13.
I know, and they won one World Series.
That's 1996.
Yeah, and that's
95. 96, they
95,
lost to the Yankees.
95, and they beat
Cleveland the first time.
Yeah, Justice hit a
And then Florida Marlins.
Justice
win
hit a
in
home run to win
97.
the one game 1-0. I think it was the last game.
Yeah.
David Justice.
So my father was whet his appetite for more World Series victories. I tell you, you win one, you think you're going to be satisfied after a long drought. And they hadn't won since '14, which meant they'd never won in my father's lifetime because he wasn't a Milwaukee Braves fan.
Yeah.
They'd only gone in '48 in his lifetime. Then, geez.
Interesting.
Yeah, and then they moved to Milwaukee, and then all these great players come up. I think Eddie Matthews was in Boston uniform, who hit 512 dingers. Great third baseman, forgotten. No.
Matthews is the only player on the Braves to play in Boston, Milwaukee, and Atlanta.
No kidding.
Yeah, the only player.
Geez, he was a fearsome hitter
And-
and feared by pitchers.
Aaron missed it by a year.
That's right. And they always talked about
Yeah.
he loses the team and all these great players come up.
Joe Adcock.
Jesus, he was the catcher, right?
No, first baseman.
First baseman.
Del
Then they had the pitcher.
Del Crandall was the catcher.
Okay.
Then they
And-
had Spawn.
They won in 57, 58, won the World Series in 57, but they were always contending for years.
Yeah.
that
Then
team.
59, they lost to the Dodgers in a playoff 2 out of 3, and it was on
Yeah.
a wild pitch.
59, they could have won 3 straight pennants.
Yeah.
And if they'd done it in Boston, they'd still only got 250,000 fans.
That's true. They just didn't draw in Boston. I don't know.
They
why.
went from Boston with like 280,000 fans. They go to Milwaukee. They draw 2 million fans. But then the attendance started dropping off in the 60s.
Yeah.
And they went to Atlanta.
Yeah.
But that was called Western expansion, to go to Milwaukee.
Yeah. Exactly.
Which reminds me of that story about Babe Ruth going to the Cat House in Kansas City, but that's not for family viewing.
Oh.
Yes. He was a remarkable man, the Babe.
No.
Quite a constitution.
Yes, he he had his chickies and his snorts and his
A dozen hot dogs, a dozen bottle of beers.
all-night stands, and then go out and hit 2 home runs without any sleep.
He was definitely somebody for the 1920s, huh?
There's an old
The
story.
Roaring Twenties.
There's an old story. I don't know if it's true or not. That the manager of the Washington Senators told a couple of his players, take Ruth out and get him blitzed. So they did. And Ruth hit 2 home runs the next day. I don't know if that's a true story, but it's funny.
It's weird though when you look into like the stories about him, like that he hit home run for the kid. It
Yeah.
actually turns out to be true.
Yes.
He actually told the kid he did a home run, which in the movie about Lou Gehrig they give it to him. But and then there's the thing about that called shot, and you look at those old newsreels, and he's pointing that bat.
Yeah.
He's pointing the bat.
Yeah,
but they say that he's not really.
Yeah.
Nobody's sure.
I know. If he hadn't hit a home run, there wouldn't be any
He's
story.
pointing the bat. You know? Right. The 32 World Series is famous for. Who was that Hall of Fame pitcher? Burley Grimes. He was considered the nastiest bench jockey of all. Filthy mouth, vicious, and he'd hit. You know, what are you going to do? He'll hit you if you know.
Yeah.
So
No helmets in those days.
32. He's on the Cardinals. The imprecations, as they call it, being hurled the way of the Babe. Even tried his patience, and he'd heard it all. So all of a sudden, he comes barreling into the St. Louis locker room. He's red, and he's a big guy for the time. Was he 6'2"?
Why were they playing the
Who was it? No,
Cardinals?
Chicago, right?
Cubs?
The Cubs, that's right.
It was
Excuse
Charlie
me.
Root that threw the home run pitch to Ruth.
Right, it's the Chicago. Burley Grimes with the Chicago.
Right.
And see, you've won your title yet again tonight.
Oh, my goodness gracious. I got
Cubs.
something right, huh? And
So he runs in there, and they were hurling racial epithets at him because they figured anybody that could do those Herculean tasks had to be a Negro. And he would hear that. And I can't even tell you the story, but Lou Gehrig was about 2 inches tall, 6'4", is in there holding the Babe so he doesn't kill Burley Grimes. And he said, "You can call me expletive deleted and an expletive deleted, but don't call me the bad word for black man. That hurts." But see, those are stories that
I
are
never
told.
heard that,
Yeah, you find them in books and everything.
now I heard that he and Ted Williams advocated for the black ball
Oh, yeah.
players to get into the Hall of Fame.
Babe Ruth had no fear of any.
No, he didn't.
He would want to go against. They used to barnstorm against.
Oh, I know.
He'd want to hit against Satchel Paige.
Yes. Yeah.
But these stories that are told, like one like that,
Yeah.
they're just passed. Then is that real or not?
I remember Charlie Grimm was the first baseman on that 32 Cub team, which, by the way, the Yankees swept that series 4-0.
Babe Ruth's last World Series.
Yes, and Charlie Grimm said, every time I looked up, Gehrig was rounding first.
Jeez, what a fearsome
He
combination.
hit over 500 in that series.
Number 3, Babe Ruth, and then batting behind him.
Then you got Gehrig and Musial and
Jeez, he hit
Lazari.
497 home runs.
Yeah,
or
96, yeah.
something. So many RBI. What do you have? 183 one year. Because 184 is the American League record.
That is what he hit, 184.
Somebody hit 183 too. Maybe that was Jimmy Fox.
Could be
And he
right.
hit 175 RBI.
Yeah.
He'd like average 150 RBI.
Hack Wilson holds the record with 191.
Right, they added one on.
Yeah, they went through How do you do that? You go through the record
After
books
all
50
these years, you know?
50 years later, and he has
They've
another
taken
run
him-
batted in here.
They've taken away one of Ty Cobb's batting titles.
Took it away. They can't take it away once it's done.
Well, Ban Johnson gave him the title after, remember, with Nap Lajoie? They had the 8 hits. They just kept going.
Well, he kept bunting.
Bunting, and they took it away. So Ban Johnson made some hits up for Ty Cobb to, in the cause of justice. And everybody knew they had to give him. You won a Chalmers motor car.
Right.
That's 1914,
That was-
and they gave
both one.
Both one. Right.
Yeah.
But now these people, that say, Ernie Shore didn't throw a perfect game.
Which he didn't.
He did.
He got 26 in a row.
Jesus Christ! When Babe Ruth got the tizzy.
It's not a perfect game when there's a runner on. That's gone.
See, there's something wrong with you, Mr. Baseball.
The only time you can,
I'm looking at you with what's called a gimlet eye.
the only way that you can have a perfect game with an error is if, and Yogi did it in 51, but it wasn't a perfect game. It was a no-hitter. He dropped a pop-up foul that Ted Williams hit. And then on the very next pitch, Ted did the same thing, and Yogi caught that one.
Remember, he said he was
but-
scared that he was going to drop it again.
But he didn't lose the no-hitter, and it wouldn't have cost a perfect game either.
You'd take away Harvey Haddock's perfect game,
Well, it wasn't perfect.
especially since in the 13th inning he went to hell. Basket. It was fun though. They'd give like a honorary.
That was the
perfect game.
craziest inning in baseball.
We should talk about that. The whole thing. He pitches 12 perfect innings. Who was he pitching against? The great pitcher who was pitching a no-hitter.
Lou Burdett.
He was pitching a no-hitter.
And Lou Burdett said, Harvey Haddock pitched the greatest game in history, and I won it.
That's great. And then he was on a box of oranges. Harvey Haddock's.
Was he?
Oh, yeah. It made him famous. But you remember that picture of him at the end of the game? He's just devastated.
Oh, he was.
Hey, why don't we show, Bobby Dorr, the Keystone Sacker. You have any closing thoughts about who should win the MVP in both leagues?
Altuve,
I agree on AL. Not
The
so sure on
AL.
NL.
the National League, I'm a little torn, but I got to go with Stanton. He had enough ribbies and home runs and helped his team go from
Who would you
blah to better blah.
Who would you put for your second choice? I mean, he hit 59 dingers. And he's definitely got the talent to do it in a year that's kind of screwy.
Yeah, I don't know. They didn't have Votto in there. He had a pretty good year.
Do you think Giancarlo's going to be unanimous?
No.
Altuve won't be unanimous because of Judge. He'll pick up a couple
yeah.
votes.
Judge
From
will
those New Jersey voters.
I was just going to say, from the Eastern sports writers. Who are they
the
going to
New Jersey sports, right?
New Jersey. Oh, goodness gracious. I love Judge, but it's not your year, Aaron, for the MVP. Do it
gonna-
next year.
Who's going to be the manager of the New York Yankees?
I have no clue.
I heard you're pulling for Carlos Beltran.
No. He just retired today, didn't he?
Yesterday.
Well, he's retired.
He's a good player.
Very good ball player.
Yeah.
Great postseason records. Borderline Hall of Fame.
Nah, he's not even close.
Well, I was checking his stats with
Stats are
Bagwell's.
meaningless.
With Bagwell's. They're
That's
on a par. They're on a par.
He was never an MVP. He's never even in the top 5 in MVP voting. The closest he ever came was number 9. He was a Rookie of the Year, and that was it.
Yeah. Jeter never won an MVP.
And he should have won 2.
And
They give it to these slobs from Minnesota that have, that have these gaudy home dinger thing. Jeter was one of the all-time greats. Should have won 2 MVPs.
Yeah.
Would you argue with that?
No, I wouldn't argue with
I
that.
know that you match my obstreperousness with being cantankerous.
Was it
sometimes.
wasn't Mauer or the first baseman?
Bauer beat him. He should have won that year, and then the other guy won.
Yeah.
Hitting.
Yeah.
Christ, fielding is half the game.
Oh, it is. That's what got.
Or pitches are nothing, you know? Why
Yeah.
don't you just have, like they have a mechanical rabbit at the horse track, just toss balls up there. There's something that comes out of the ground. Didn't Charlie Finley have some automatic device that
Yeah.
brought balls?
Pop the balls up.
Did it work?
Charlie, he was a character of all time. He got people to sit in the seats, though.
Okay, Mr. Baseball, thanks for coming in.
My
I'm
pleasure
sorry
always.
we couldn't have talked about the election and death. I know.